And we're back. So Pilate wants to please the Jews. So he tries the Barabbas experiment, and they don't accept it. And now he scourges Jesus, and it seems that they don't accept that. As a matter of fact, it says here, verse 6, that they were not sympathetic at all, but rather they said, crucify him, crucify. So they really want him dead, there are no other options.
But Pilate is implacable. In verse 7, he says, I find no basis for your charge. You see, there's no basis for this thing. So it's very clear that Pilate is holding firm. He does not believe that Jesus should be released. The Jews are holding firm, the leadership there, because they want him dead. So they're at an impasse. And Pilate's at a delicate point here. Because of his vulnerability, he needs to resolve this situation in some way, and that's why he's indecisive. You know, he knows what the right thing to do is, and yet he can't quite bring himself to do it. So both of them find things aren't working.
And again, that's clear in verse 6, and it says that therefore when the chief priests and officers saw him, they cried out saying, crucify him, crucify him. And Pilate said to them, you take him and crucify him. I find no fault in him.
You see, it's not working for either side. Pilate is not convincing the leadership that Jesus should be released. Even the sympathies, you know, look at this poor guy. What kind of threat is he? Clearly, Jesus is not a threat to Rome. But the Jews are not convincing Pilate that he's a threat. He's innocent. He says, I find no basis for a charge against him. So something has to change to get things off center, and that happens in verses 7 and 8.
The Jews answered him, we have a law, and according to our law he ought to die, because he made himself the Son of God. Therefore, when Pilate heard that saying, he was more afraid, and went.
See, there you see what happened. They've turned it. They came with a civil charge. He's a threat to Caesar. They now realize there's no way Pilate's ever going to be convinced of that. He sees that Jesus is not a political threat to Rome. So now they turn the charge. They turn it to a religious thing, the very thing they were afraid to do at first. They say, no, this is really about our law. According to our law, he needs to die. Now, Pilate had been wrong about the law over and over again, the Jewish law. He had misunderstood. He had not listened to them. He had done things that unnecessarily offended the people and the leadership. So he's afraid now. I'm falling into one of these again.
Now, what was he afraid of? Because it says here he was more afraid. That means he was already afraid. Yeah. Another thing is, it doesn't seem, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't seem that that John inserts here the dream of his wife.
No, that's not here.
So do you think, does that say that he was more afraid of the dream of his conviction that indeed this was the Son of God, or what was he afraid of before?
I think his basic fear is related to all the mistakes that he has made in the past in relation to this particular group of leaders. Anytime these leaders bring something to him, it's a dicey thing for him. It's a dangerous situation to be in. So it's a vulnerable situation from the beginning, but he still wants to do the right thing. Now they realize the place to get Pilate is on the religious grounds, because if he offends them religiously one more time, Caesar might take his job away. So his job is at stake. He's not really ultimately worried about what happens to Jesus. He wants to do the right thing because that's what governors are supposed to do. It's what judges are supposed to do, to judge the right thing. But he realizes that he can't release Jesus and save himself. That's the problem. He's stuck in this thing. He wants to preserve his job, but he can't save Jesus and do that if it's a religious charge. And so he's got to go back and find out something. So he goes back to Jesus, verses 9 and 10.
And went again into the praetorium and said to Jesus, where are you from? But Jesus gave him no answer. Then Pilate said to him, are you not speaking to me? Do you not know that I have the power to crucify you and the power to release you?
Okay, so you see, now he's worried. He wants to find out about this religious thing. Who is this guy? that they're so worried about him. Pilate just doesn't get it. Why would Jesus be a threat to anyone? But somehow he's a threat to these religious leaders. So he's trying to figure out, where are you from? Why are they so scared of you? Why is there such an issue? And Jesus is not interested anymore in speaking with him, because he's already attempted to clarify that with Pilate, and Pilate's not listening. So Jesus doesn't respond, and Pilate says, look, you got to understand, I can free you, I can crucify you. I have all the power. And then comes one of the most amazing statements that Jesus makes in verse 11.
Yeah. Before I read that, I want to just comment that I find it interesting that before the people, he does not show any type of authority. But then he takes Jesus by himself, and he seems to show that authority. Don't you know that I have the power or the authority to let you go? But he doesn't show it before the people.
But Jesus is frustrating him. He wants Jesus to give him something that he can go back to the religious leaders and resolve the problem. He knows Jesus is innocent. He wants to free him, but he needs something from Jesus, and Jesus isn't helping him.
Right.
So he says, that's what causes him to say, look, I can crucify you, I can set you free. I have the power. And then Jesus comes back in verse 11.
Yeah. Jesus answered, you could have no power at all against me unless it had been given to you from above. Therefore, the one who delivered me to you has the greater sin.
I just find it beautiful here. In the midst of this trial, Jesus is still not concerned about himself. He still holds out the olive branch to Pilate. He says, look, I know you're in a difficult position. You didn't choose to be here. The one who handed you over has the greater sin. He kind of lets him off the hook just a little bit. And Pilate sees what Jesus is doing. And in verse 12, it says he tried to set Jesus free even more. So, doesn't work. It's not working. Pilate comes to realize he either gives Jesus up or he gives himself up.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Pauline, here, when Jesus says that the one who has delivered me to you has greater sin, so it seems that Jesus is implying that Pilate has sin or is guilty of something. What is that sin that Pilate is guilty of?
Because Pilate is really putting himself ahead of Jesus. If you know who Jesus is, and that's what this gospel is all about, if you've read from the prologue on, you realize that for Pilate, this is the most awesome moment of his life. He's with the King of the universe. He's with the one who created everything. You see, that's the moment of all moments to say, I don't care if I'm governor. I don't care if I even live. I got to do what God wants me to do. That's the thing that truly matters in the ultimate scheme of things. And Pilate has some sense of that. He realizes he's dealing with somebody special, even though he doesn't get a message from his wife in this account. You can see that Pilate definitely believes Jesus is innocent, and there's something about Jesus that's really special. But he also realizes that the religious leadership is not going to be moved. And so now he's faced with the choice. He can save Jesus or he can save himself. He can't do both. And it is that decision that is his lesser sin in that sense. He is not the one who wants Jesus dead, but he's nevertheless willing for Jesus to die so that he can stay as governor and continue with his plush life and all of that. So Pilate makes a decision. He realizes that his indecision is causing him trouble. And so he says, I'm going to become decisive now. And he decides if he's going to give Jesus up, he wants something in return. And what he does in the next few verses, we won't have time to read them, but what he does is basically extract from them the confession that Caesar is their king, not Jesus, not God, not anyone else. And the irony of this is amazing, because Caiaphas has said in chapter 11 that preserving the nation is the crucial thing. One person should die that the nation would be preserved. Now they are so against Jesus that they're willing to sacrifice the nation in order to kill one man. I mean, the whole thing is turned on its head. They are willing to say, we have no king but Caesar. When Pilate hears that, he knows that he's won. And then he has a placard put on there, the King of the Jews. You see, I mean, the humiliation of Israel. He uses the cross to absolutely destroy the standing of these religious leaders in the eyes of the people. And they realize what he's doing, and they protest. Pilate's unmovable. Once he's decided to give up Jesus, he's confident. He's unmovable. This is what I have written. I have written. So Pilate, in putting Jesus on the cross, finds himself. That's the interesting thing. The cross of Christ changes people in the Gospel of John. It changes Pilate too. He becomes a different person after that. He's confident, he knows where he's going, etc. Obviously, it's in rejection of Jesus. It's a loss to him in the ultimate scheme of things. But in condemning Jesus to the cross, Pilate, ironically, finds himself. The crucifixion story itself is almost totally unique to John. He has a lot of stuff that the Matthew, Mark, and Luke don't have, and let me review those quickly before we draw to a close. There's the controversy over the inscription, what he should write there. The cross is a fulfillment of prophecy. Pilate now is like Peter, He wants to be in control, and he feels like he's gotten control of the situation. But God is in control. Pilate is simply fulfilling prophecy. Jesus' death is voluntary, it's full of purpose, and it's according to the Bible. He sees Mary, his mother, and he puts her in the hands of John and takes care of her. And then he says, "It is finished." And then the reality of Jesus' death is verified by experts, Roman soldiers. So, in concluding the story of the cross, we want to ask the question, what was finished at the cross? Jesus says, "It is finished." What was finished at the cross? From John, we get 4 answers. Number 1, Jesus and the Father are glorified. God's character is revealed. That revelation was complete at the cross. Second, the prophecies related to the Messiah, Isaiah 53, those are completed at the cross. Number 3, the ruler of the world has been defeated. Satan is defeated at the cross, John 12:31. And finally, John 12:32, everyone will be drawn to Jesus because of the cross. That's what was finished.
And Dr. Pauline, as I think about this, I try to apply it to my own life. And I think we sometimes are in the position of Pilate, where we must decide either for Jesus or against him. We cannot be neutral, just as Pilate was. And so, friends, I also want to invite you to invite Jesus Christ into your life.